Hey, Hawkeye fans, Chad Leistikow of the Des Moines Register. The long-awaited anticipation for Kennington Smith's replacement is over, and happy to introduce to you all Tyler Tachman. You can see the spelling, I believe, on the screen, Tyler. He informed me how it's pronounced. Obviously, name pronunciation, very important to me as well. It's a constant struggle. That's why it's in my Twitter bio. Uh, the best way you described it to me, my friend, is like the New York Yankees president or whatever, Brian Cashman. It rhymes with that. So Tyler Tachman, welcome you to the Hawkeyes beats. Let's just say hey, and introduce yourself to the Hawkeye fans.
Yeah, well, first, I think the long-awaited, introduction is. I appreciate that, but I'll take that very humbly. But yeah, my name is Tyler Tachman. Been hired as the Iowa Hawkeyes beat reporter at the Des Moines Register. Will mostly be focusing on football and men's basketball, but graduated from Indiana University in May. Spent a lot of time during my time as a student covering Indiana basketball, Indiana football, and then to a certain extent just Indiana athletics generally. So I already kind of have a familiarity, obviously, with the Big Ten, and have been to Iowa games when they've played Indiana and followed them, from a distance already. So I'm just looking forward to the opportunity to cover the teams and really be a connector, and I'm sure I'll probably get into a little bit more of this later, but and also with I kind of wrote an introduction piece that'll be going tomorrow, but to be a connector between you all as a fan base and Iowa athletics. That's something I'm really big on, is the human interest side of it, helping you guys feel more connected to athletics and who people are as humans, not just what they're going to do on the field or court or anything else. So yeah, I appreciate you having me on.
Of course, yeah. I mean, I've been quote unquote on my own. Dargan Southard's been awesome. He's producing this podcast, kind of being my pinch hitter teammate. In the meantime, we've had different guests on the Hawk Central podcast throughout the weeks, and now Tyler will be a regular part of our team. His first day is today. Tyler, a few of the interesting things that I already know about you, but let's keep exploring these things, that you are from Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And you mentioned to our listeners, viewers, that you attended Indiana, and that's where you kind of gained some of your journalistic chops, and where we could see a lot of promise in your work and covering Indiana basketball, which I think is really valuable. To have some experience covering the Big Ten, but it kind of seems like, just on the surface at least, and maybe you can expand on this, is that you've kind of been, I mean, I'm guessing, being from Chapel Hill and then Bloomington, Indiana, like two blue bloods of college basketball, that you're into college, like college basketball is your thing. What is your basketball background, and is that true?
I would say I really enjoy college basketball. I don't know if I'd say it's my thing. I think just covering Indiana, it's kind of, it goes without saying that like people are more interested in basketball than football in Indiana, and like football season for the most part, like maybe outside of 2020 where that COVID season where they really broke out, like football is kind of just a way to pass time until basketball comes. So like I think because University of North Carolina is so basketball oriented, and because Indiana is so basketball oriented, I've just kind of steered toward the basketball side of it. But that's actually one thing I'm really excited about coming to Iowa now, is that just the passion for football and the excitement for football, the culture of football, and also being able to have a really good basketball program alongside of that. So being able to kind of have two really strong programs in that regard. But yeah, I don't know if I would necessarily say like basketball. I enjoy basketball. I don't know if it's specifically my thing, but the one thing I think that's really that I can connect between Iowa and North Carolina and Indiana is just the college town vibe. All of them are very similar in that sense, in that they have a very passionate fan base. People care. Um, just the kind of tight knit community. I enjoy. I found a lot of parallels living in Bloomington as living in Chapel Hill, and I have a feeling that I'm probably gonna feel the same way about Iowa City. So that's one thing I enjoy covering college athletics, especially now because the point I am in my life where I just graduated from college, but I feel like I can really relate to where people are in their lives. Like these athletes are being able to learn, being starting to kind of learn who you are as an adult, living on your own, all these type of challenges that, you face kind of when you're off in the real world. So um, I think those things like are definitely just appealing to me in terms of having a job like covering college athletics.
So did you cover the Iowa Indiana football game 2 years ago in Kinnick?
I did, yeah, and
Okay.
that was a I've
14-0
actually,
right off the bat.
yeah, I've covered that. I was at the, Jordan Bohannon when he hit the game winner against Iowa in the, or against Indiana in the, Big Ten tournament in 2022, but yeah, so I've been around for some memorable Iowa moments for Iowa fans, but not Indiana, so
I just looked at the future schedules. Iowa does not play the Hoosiers in football until 2025, and that's actually in Bloomington. It looks like they haven't set the date yet. So I guess I don't know if that's the FBS schedules listed as maybe the Big Ten opener, but I don't know if that's accurate. So, but it is at Indiana. So there you go. You got to stick around at least through 2025. By the way, just that's part of the contract I think we signed with you. But so we can go back there together. Um, but do you have one? I've got a lot of listener questions lined up. So thank you to those in my text group for sending those along. And if you have any, please drop some in the YouTube comments here, and we'll do our best to answer them. We actually will touch on a few other little topics toward the end of the show, including Iowa going to Big Ten Media Days, which Tyler will join me at, and then the Gable Stevenson talk in wrestling. And we're planning to get to that. But Tyler, now our previous Hawkeyes reporter, Kennington Smith, beloved, so high bar here. No pressure, but don't put pressure on yourself either. I'm just telling you, just be yourself. That's what you put your head down, be yourself. Hawkeye fans will love that about you. But he was a big Georgia Bulldogs fan because that was where he went to school. So would you consider yourself kind of a Tar Heels fan collegiately? Do you come with any fandom to any like teams at all? Outside, obviously we're not fans on the Hawkeye beat, but outside of what you're covering.
I would say, yeah, I'm a North Carolina fan just because I grew up. Like, I think that's a lot of where my passion for sports came from. Like, just growing up, going to even the smaller UNC sports like softball and wrestling, which I know is really big at Iowa, but um, going to those type sports, field hockey, all of that. So I would say I'm a UNC fan. And then professionally, um, I root for the St. Louis Cardinals because my dad grew up in St. Louis, so he kind of brainwashed me from an early age, made me a Cardinals fan. So I see you're shaking your head, so I don't know if you're a
Very
Cubs.
disappointing.
Are you
Yeah,
a Cubs
Cubs.
fan?
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
well,
I can get up my Cubs 2016 World Series champs T-shirt back there if you want.
yeah, that I remember. Was it the Game 7? I remember watching Game 7 with like, was it the when Rajai Davis hit a home run for the
Yeah.
Indians? Yeah, that game was crazy. I was rooting for the
Oh
Indians so bad. Yeah, I
yeah,
guess
what
the
a night.
Guardians now, but yeah,
Guardians, right? Yeah.
yeah. But
That's all right. I mean, Iowa's like Cubs and Cardinals and some other stuff too. Twins, Royals. I mean, a few Brewers fans, White Sox, but I would say Cubs Cardinals is kind of like Bears Packers, Bears Vikings, Packers Vikings, like that type of thing
And
here.
yeah,
But
and the Cardinals are for the Cardinals fans out there, this season has been, nothing short of a dumpster fire, so prayers to all of my other Cardinals fans out there.
yeah. Let me just get into some listener questions, and I'm sure we'll weave back in and out of personal stuff as we go here. But one of the early questions that I got was, when you think of Iowa, what is the first thing that you think of? Obviously, you had interest in this job, you applied for the job, but what do you know about Iowa, or what did you know about Iowa coming into this process?
Definitely just about well, actually, first I'll say, before like, this was probably when I was in high school, but watching Field of Dreams, um,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
so that was sort of like I wouldn't say my introduction, but, like, that was a really cool moment of, like, watching Field of Dreams and, "If you build it, they'll come," all that stuff, like, that was cool, but what I knew about Iowa, like, I don't feel like it's really that much, like, foreign to me because being in Indiana, being in the Big Ten, like I said, I've already been around for some, like, kinda memorable Iowa moments, just covering it from the Indiana perspective. Um, like, I was at last season at Assembly Hall when, uh, Iowa men's basketball just blew out Indiana. I was also at the game that Indiana women's basketball beat Iowa.
Oh, wow.
That was a really good game, or that was the one
Yeah,
at Assembly Hall, not the Caitlin Clark game winner, but I was at that.
right.
But I think what, like, stands out in my mind in a similar way to Indiana is that it's just, like, people are very passionate about sports, and Iowa doesn't have that, like, major professional team that Indiana does, where Indiana does still have the Pacers and the Colts. Iowa doesn't kinda have that NFL, NBA, team to where, Iowa Hawkeyes are sort of taking that place, or Iowa State, or, college athletics.
No, no.
Uh, I'm trying to be unbiased here. I'm trying to, uh, but yeah, but just the importance of college athletics, and I really and I like that because, and it's changing now with, like, the NIL landscape and all of that, but I just like the camaraderie of college sports and, like, the team aspect of it, where, in professional sports, you have guys chasing money a lot more, and obviously, like I said, that's changed a little bit now with NIL and the transfer portal, but just the I don't know, just the overall, like, kinda culture of college athletics, and I think that, like, definitely is something that stands out in my mind about Iowa.
All right. So one topic I really want to, honestly, I haven't talked to you a ton about this yet, so I'm interested as well. But I don't know how far you've gotten, but I know you got through rewatching, and this is your first day on the job. So give Tyler a lot of credit for watching Iowa football games before he even started this job. So after he was hired maybe even before you were hired, started watching all the games of the 2022 season. Now, all those listening to this know are kind of laughing, chuckling, because 2022 was a rough season offensively, yet somehow Iowa found ways to win games. Anyway, I'm just kind of curious your impressions before you started of Iowa football, before you started watching those games, and maybe your perceptions of Iowa football after watching the 2022 season.
I knew that they kinda have the style of the, ground and pound and really good defenses, and, that's kind of their identity. I didn't know it was quite to the extent of a South Dakota State opener where they they score 7 points and they don't even score a touchdown. 2 safeties and a field goal, and that was kind of like I
First game you watched, right? First real
yeah, that
game.
was like just drinking straight out of the fire hose to, like, welcome me in, but, because I remember hearing about that, like, when it happened and being like, "That's crazy," but then watching it and, um, I guess I'll say my impression, and this is not gonna, like, come as a surprise to people, but the Iowa's defense is insanely good. Cooper DeJean is really, really good. Obviously, this isn't new to anyone else, but it was kinda new for me watching it. The offense, I feel like, I know Spencer Petras took a lot of heat, and he wasn't great, but at the same time, I think that there's a lot of things around him that could have been better to put him in better situations. I think the offensive line, struggled, and when you have a quarterback that's not really mobile paired with an offensive line that's struggling, that's not a recipe for success. You kind of have to, if you're going to maneuver your way out of that, you either have to have a quarterback that can move on his legs, move a little bit, or an offensive line that, obviously losing Tyler Linderbaum and all that was, a factor, but also the weapons around him. So I think spinning it forward to this season a little bit, I'll say that I think if Iowa's defense can get near the level it was last season, and the offense can just be like fine, like serviceable, maybe even bad. Like I think that they have a really good chance of getting to Indianapolis for the Big Ten title game, because it's kind of crazy that they were able to win 8 games last season with how bad the offense was. And um if they can, if Cade McNamara can come in, he doesn't need to be like, Patrick Mahomes or anything, but like if they can just be an average offense or below average offense, and if the defense can replicate sort of what it was last season, and obviously they're losing a lot of key pieces: Jack Campbell, Seth Benson, Kayvon Merriweather, Riley Moss, Lucas Van Ness. But I think that there's a pretty clear path for them to be able to get to the Big Ten championship.
Look at you rattle off all those names. That's impressive. I mean, did you have those written down, or do you have them on memory there? Those 5 names.
Nah.
That's
I
nice.
just, man, I
Nice.
well, I
Wow.
watched the only game I didn't watch like in full was the game against Purdue, and that's because I
Okay.
couldn't find the full version. But
Okay.
yeah, but I think like the offense, like if the offense was like even bad against Illinois and
Yeah.
Iowa State, like they win those games, and then you're talking about, pretty comfortably getting into the Big Ten championship, and the Nebraska game might be a different story and whatever. But yeah, no, I watched it. I watched it pretty closely. So
Yeah, someone in our YouTube comments wants to know if you got hazard pay for having to watch the 2022 season. I don't know if that was in your contract or not, or signing bonus maybe.
I'll take if you want to Venmo me for that. I'll take donations. Or
I, I think that's legal. I think it's legal. Everything's legal now, right? So uh, good analysis there, man. And I think that's, I mean, that it's almost a funny headline, but we almost could write that story, going into this season. Can Iowa's offense be bad this year? As Tyler said, if they can just be bad, maybe they can get to the Big Ten title game, for sure. That's the big storyline. And I know we do get Iowa football players tomorrow in Iowa City. Just full transparency, Tyler found out that leases in Iowa City don't really start until August 1st. So Tyler will be moving here officially the week of August 1st. So excited to have you here in person. But you and I will get to connect in person at Big Ten Media Days next week, conveniently located at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. Before we get into some other questions, let's just talk about that now, Tyler. Interesting group of Hawkeyes going to Indy. I felt pretty confident, I guess, or like I felt like Cade McNamara would be one of the three, just because he's really kind of gathered a leadership role with the team like quickly since his arrival in January, and he's the quarterback. He's somebody that is leading this team essentially, and obviously has a history in the Big Ten. But I also can understand not bringing him and not putting him in front of 35, 40 Michigan reporters for an hour at a podium as well. And it doesn't mean they're protecting him from that, but maybe it's like, who knows what the process was, but maybe it was just sort of like, coach, I'd really rather not go. I don't feel it's my place. Maybe let guys who have been in the program longer go. Kirk Ferentz does see this as kind of an honor. He's not necessarily doing it for what the best stories are going to be for us. That's not the process typically. So the players are Cooper DeJean, which is a really notable pick. Only the second third-year junior of the Ferentz era to be picked for Big Ten Media Days. The other was Nate Stanley, quarterback in 2018. So it's a little bit of history there. Also, defensive tackle Noah Shannon, sixth-year senior, kind of a plugger, veteran guy, had off-season surgery. So really good quote. And he came up with Hercules for Lucas Van Ness, or at least publicly coined Lucas Van Ness Hercules, and that stuck. And honestly, the people I talked to said that helped Lucas Van Ness in the pre-draft process, because oh man, Hercules, like we should probably get an eye. Why are they calling him Hercules? And they see like the guy is built like a, you know, a brick house. And then Luke Lachey, the tight end, kind of interesting choices there. Luke was a backup tight end last year. Now he goes to Big Ten Media Days as a redshirt junior. Obviously has the Ohio State ties. His father's an announcer for the Buckeyes. So, you get tight end, you get the best player on the team in DeJean, despite being young, and then kind of the program veteran in Shannon. I know you've not talked to these guys before, Tyler, but what do you make of kind of that choice of list, knowing what players are coming back for the Hawkeyes this year?
I think Luke Lachey is a really interesting one on the list because we've seen him kind of be in the shadow of Sam Laporta the last few seasons, and now obviously Sam Laporta is off to the NFL, but both of those guys kind of played off of each other, and Luke Lachey being able to have a role even though Sam Laporta was the guy, and now you look at him kind of moving into that more featured role. But I also think that the importance of getting Eric All, uh, I feel like it has a multiplicity of possible benefits, and one being that, and Eric All being a transfer from Michigan, transfer tight end from Michigan, that we can see Iowa do what it had done the last few seasons with Sam Laporta and Luke Lachey, where you can have both of those guys kind of playing off of each other and both of them having roles. So you have two tight ends that have significant roles in the offense. And number two is that when you talk about Cade McNamara coming in, having a guy that he's already comfortable with, that he's played with at the college level, that he has some chemistry with, that can help facilitate that chemistry with other guys. I think that's really important coming in and being able to try to turn around the offense. So to me, Luke Lachey, is an interesting storyline because of I think he's expected to kind of take that leap forward and be a guy that is going to be a featured in the offense. And maybe you don't have to lean as much on the tight ends this season because you hope that Seth Anderson and Caleb Brown, two transfers coming in, can help the offense out. That Nico Ragaini at wide receiver who's coming back can produce. Maybe someone like Deontay Vines can take a step up at wide receiver. And I haven't mentioned Caleb Johnson yet, but had an outstanding freshman season and think that he can be a really important piece moving forward. But Luke Lachey, I think, he's expected to be one of those kind of breakout guys that has been in the shadow, like I said, a little bit of Sam Laporta. So to me, he's an interesting guy kind of heading into media day.
Yeah, great analysis there, and great job pronouncing Regaini correctly. I mean, most of us in the Iowa media do not. So glad you're on the ball on that stuff. Appreciate that very much. More reader questions, and we'll get to some other stuff related to the Hawkeyes as we go. But relating to football, what storyline do you look forward to exploring the most on this beat? It doesn't have to be Big Ten Media Days, anything like that, but any particular storyline you're looking at going into the season, Tyler, that you're most interested in?
I think it's just the dynamic like going into this season for Iowa is really interesting in that this is the last season of divisions before the Big Ten switches over to one big division or whatever you want to call it, the different format. And to me, it feels like this is a golden opportunity, not just because of the roster that Iowa has, but also because they're still in the West. This is like a golden opportunity to kind of finish what they weren't able to last season. All they had to do last season was beat Nebraska in that last regular season game of the season to get to Indianapolis. That didn't happen. But this season, they have the ability to finish what they couldn't. And I think we talked about it before, but like a Cade McNamara versus Michigan in the Big Ten championship would be like quite the storyline. Whether that happens or not, I'm not sure. But going off of also just the way the dynamic of the Big Ten is changing, you look at because of obviously it's well known the kind of way that the two divisions benefit, the West probably more than the East. And you have one team going in from the East, and you have Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan in there, and that kind of cannibalizes itself. So only one of those three teams gets in the Big Ten championship. And in the West, you have one of, Illinois or Purdue or Wisconsin or Iowa, likely to get in. And when the divisions come together, then you just have the top two teams in the entire Big Ten, which means that you could have an Ohio State and Penn State or Ohio State and Michigan, which means that the path for Iowa to get there means going through multiple of those teams. So, like I said, because of the roster they have coming back, but also just because of how the dynamics in the Big Ten is going to be changing, I feel like this is like kind of just like a golden opportunity for Iowa to kind of really like leave a mark and take advantage of what seems to be a good opportunity.
Awesome answer there. A couple more just random questions. So Kennington, our previous guy, was big into, everyone knew he was big into like chicken places like Chick-fil-A, Cane's, Popeye. We always kind of had these conversations about, who has the best chicken, et cetera. Any like, fast food or restaurant staples that like you're hoping Iowa has, or Iowa has, anything like that you really like are passionate about, I guess, in terms of spots to hit?
Yeah, food wise, I'll say I'm a big foodie. My dad works in a restaurant, so I like
Oh,
grew
no
up.
way.
Yeah, he's a pastry chef, so I grew up like,
Wow.
and like I would come in with him on like Saturdays and like help him out. And I used to make like, I called like, it was called I called it like sugar bread. It was basically bread and I just put a bunch of sugar on it. And like he told me that he put it on the menu, because I was like trying to like get him to put it on the menu. And he said he did, and I was like so excited. And then like years later, like I found out that like he didn't actually. He was just telling me just like to make me happy, because
Oh man, serious?
it was like I was like 10 years old probably, and
Okay.
I don't think it tasted very good probably, but for a 10-year-old it tasted great. But no, he's actually retiring this week, so shout out to him. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but anyways, I like food, I like cooking. I like most types of foods. I like chicken wings, pizza. One thing that I've missed in Indiana that I'm hoping I'll get in Iowa is barbecue, because being from North Carolina, I really like good barbecue. They don't really have like a ton of great barbecue in Indiana, so I'm hoping Iowa does. Really any food. I almost like any type of food except maybe like crawfish, shellfish.
Mm-hmm.
So
All right.
I'm looking forward to figuring out the cuisine landscape over there.
Well, there's plenty of barbecue spots in Iowa City. I'll let our listeners kind of, I don't want to like suggest one over the other, unless they want to sponsor us. I mean, then I'll suggest it. But yeah, throw suggestions Tyler's way on best barbecue spots in Iowa City. I've got a few in mind, but again, I don't want to soil I don't want to influence anything. So
no, I like that. I like the sponsorship. Can we do like a free hush puppies if Iowa scores more than 10 points or something like that?
We might have to wait a while, man. No, just kidding. First game, that should be Utah State. You would think Iowa can kind of crack that 25 points per game average that they need to for Brian Ferentz's contract. I'm not even sure what you know about that, but we'll get into that. We'll talk about that a lot as the season goes on. Any do you have brothers and sisters? Are you only child? What's your family, siblings, close family guy? How would you tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, I'm an only child.
Really?
Yeah.
So was Kennington. This is
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
What is it about? Okay. All right.
Yeah,
That's
only
cool.
child, but I'm really close with both my parents. They're a big part of, who I am, what I've been able to do, what pushes me to go forward. So, I'm in contact with them a lot, and they're helping me move to Iowa City. So
Awesome. Do they live in Chapel Hill then, or?
yeah, they both
Okay.
live in Chapel Hill. Yeah.
All right. Very cool. All right, let's talk. If you're comfortable to talk about a little bit of college wrestling, let's do it. last topic here, unless anyone else wants to fire away any further questions for Tyler, but we're going to get to know him through the coming months, years on the beat. I'm really excited to have him. Like I mentioned before, we'll be in Indianapolis together next week. The Hawkeyes, he and I will get together Tuesday night. Most likely a depth chart. Iowa's preseason depth chart will come out first thing Wednesday. So that'll be something we can talk about. And then the Hawkeyes hit the podium Wednesday. So Kirk Ferentz and 6 other teams. I believe Northwestern is on that day as well. So that'll be interesting. And then a lot of Iowa's opponents go the following days, like Nebraska, Wisconsin. So that'll be we'll be there both days for the Big Ten Media Days. But until then, let's talk just a little bit of wrestling. I posted a column this morning on Gable Stevenson. Crazy to think about, Tyler. One of the athletes that you are going to get to cover, at least loosely, is women's basketball star Caitlin Clark, like the best, the national player of the year, the best in the sport right now, objectively speaking. Certainly, among, has been voted the best female athlete in college sports, won an ESPY the other night for that. So now to think about the possibility that Gable Stevenson could be a Hawkeye this coming season, almost out of the blue. But from the people I've talked to close to the program, very much a legit possibility. But they also say, just be careful, be cautious. There's a long way to go before anything like this happens. Iowa does have a pretty strong NIL, base, you could say, in wrestling. Gable he retired from wrestling after 2022, winning his second NCAA title. He won 2021 gold in the Olympics. It sounds like he wants to aim for 2024 Olympic gold again. So he has 1 year of college eligibility, believe it or not, after a stint in the WWE. I'm not asking to break down wrestling, Tyler, but just sort of the gravity of the possibility, which is real. He could stay at Minnesota. He could transfer to Iowa. I am hearing the possibility that maybe Michigan would get involved as well. But the Hawkeyes are potentially in the mix, and those in the program are very hopeful, but cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, and obviously, because he hasn't even entered the portal yet, so there's still kind of a lot of things that would have to take place. But on the surface, at least to me, it seems like a good fit just because it's a high profile program and a really high profile wrestler. And if you talk about him wanting to wrestle at, one of the best places you can in college wrestling, that just seems like a good marriage. It seems like a good combination. And he seems to also just kind of be taking it in a lighthearted, fun way of just like if he wanted to keep stuff under wraps, he wouldn't have tweeted out year 6 question mark and the bird emoji or whatever. If it was the Hawkeye emoji or whatever, and but so he seems to kind of be embracing that, and maybe the WWE kind of stardom has a factor in that, but like I said, on first glance, it seems like it would be a good fit just because of how high profile he is and how high profile the Iowa wrestling program is.
Yeah, and some people have asked, what about Tony Cassiope? He's the Hawkeyes returning heavyweight going into his final year of eligibility as well. Finished 4th in the NCAAs last year. But my answer to that is, do you want a guy that can maybe score you 26, 29 points in NCAAs? Or do you want a guy that might finish 4th at NCAAs? And we'll be going against Gable Stevenson at a different school if you don't get Gable. So, and the other thing is, Tony would have available, I'm told, an Olympic redshirt year, as this is an Olympic year coming up. So he could take an Olympic redshirt. That said, Iowa has Ben Keeter, the world junior champion in the pipeline as well, probably ticketed for heavyweight, given he is going to be a linebacker on the Hawkeye football team this year. I'm guessing he's going to play as a true freshman, at least on special teams. So, he'll be in that 230-pound range, I'm guessing. So he's not going to cut down to 197. So Ben Keeter, likely a heavyweight as well, but gives him an opportunity to redshirt, gives him an opportunity if this were to happen. wrestle against Gable Steveson in the Iowa wrestling room. And of course, the Hawkeye, new wrestling facility, $30 million facility, opens next summer. The potential for a long-term fit to have both Steveson and Spencer Lee under the same roof, two potential 2024 Olympians, kind of the goats of their sport during certain stages of their career. We saw so many Hawkeye duels start with Spencer Lee, start with a bang. Now, if this were to happen, again, I don't know what I would grade the percentage chance. I don't want to get your hopes up or anything, but let's say it's 50. Let's say it's 50 to even have a chance to, have that guy be the finishing guy at the end of duels. I mean, have those sellout crowds at Carver waiting for the last match to see what he's going to do or what backflip he's going to do. And Gable even said, I put it in my column, he said, of course, he's named after Dan Gable, that he loves, his favorite place to wrestle is at Carver Hawkeye. So a showman of sorts, getting to wrestle in front of the biggest crowds in college wrestling year after year. Iowa, always the attendance leader in college wrestling. I don't know how many years it's been, 15 maybe in a row, something like that. Would be pretty cool. So I don't want to get everyone's hopes up, just saying it's a possibility. And if we didn't, I mean, we'd be crazy not to talk about it, given what he tweeted yesterday, and then he was in Iowa City over the weekend. So pretty interesting stuff, Tyler. With that, any final thoughts as you enter the beat? How's the first day going? And are you ready for and maybe well, I don't know. Let's keep under wraps what you're working on for the week, but just give us a sense how day one's going and your excitement level as we sign off here.
Yeah, day one is going well. Looking forward to day 2 and 3 and 4 and the rest of the days. But no, I'll just say I'm excited to I'm excited for this opportunity. I'm excited to get to know you guys as a fan base. I hope you guys get to know me. Like I want to obviously I'm going to be professional and show, show myself with professionalism, but I also want it to be like casual and that like, you can ask me things or, I'm just another person like, doing my job and stuff. So, one of the things that like I've said before, and I'll probably say again is that, just the human interest side of it is really important to me, like getting to know, helping you to get to know athletes. And like, I know that like a story that I write or something, might not like single-handedly like change a life or anything, but I think it's really important to like learn about other people's perspectives in life. And like I like to connect with other people and like learn about other people. And you can take something that someone else has done and apply it to your own life or use it as inspiration or whatever. So I just think that like just being able to connect with people and like I'm not like I would describe myself, I tend to be like more of introverted, but I love connecting with people. So like I really like that part of, this job of just being able to connect with people and get to know people and build relationships and all of that. So I'm looking forward to that. If, you have any questions or whatever, reach out to me. So I'm excited.
Yeah, we are too. And that definitely stood out in the interview process. So welcome aboard, Tyler Tachman. And thanks, Hawk fans, for joining us on this special edition of the Hawk Central podcast. Stay tuned Wednesday night for our Hawk Central radio show. I've got 2 super special guests on the list. I will let you know that as soon as I definitely secure the interview, but it's going to be a good one. I promise. So stay tuned for that. It's, Wednesday night, 6 to 7 on KXNO in Des Moines. And once again, Tyler and I will be back, be in Indianapolis together next week. This should be a slow week, I think, overall, beyond that. But next week, it really gets cranked up with Big Ten Media Days. So thanks to Tyler, and thanks to you, Hawkeye fans. This is Chad Leistikow saying so long, and we'll talk.